What's going on? It's Vlogmas Day 20. We got a couple more videos left. Today is a short video. I'm just going to go over some of the changes I've made with my putting style. So I made two big changes recently in my putting style, and I've been practicing a lot, and I think it's going to help me a ton going into the next season. I feel super confident with my putting right now, more than I have in the past, and I think it's mostly because of this change in my form. So let's go down to the garage, to the basket, and I'll talk about what changes I've made. So actually the reason for some of these changes is mostly because I've been watching myself on film a lot, on video, and noticing I didn't really think my putting form looked very good or natural, so I wanted to think about how I could change that and make that better. And the biggest thing I noticed was it looked, one, unnatural, and two, I was putting super low. The disc was releasing really low. So I'm gonna go over the two things that I did to fix the unnatural look and the low putting. So the first big difference is initially when I was putting, what I was doing was basically standing totally upright, not really having too much leg movement, and just coming straight down like this and then straight out. And I think a big problem with this is my elbow is kind of bent through most of the motion, and I end up just kind of pushing my elbow out when I'm throwing, and it feels really unnatural, and I kind of have to bend forward to get everything to go forward the way I want it to. And someone that I watched a lot that I inspired my new form from is Paul Macbeth, and something he does is he kind of comes down into like between his legs a little bit, down by like below his waist, and that allows him to get kind of a full swing and keep the arm extended and use some of that swing and some of that leg power and drive to get the disc going forward. So I've kind of adopted that a little bit, and it's something I've done on my long putts, so I figured if I'm doing it for long putts, it means I'm getting more power out of it, so I should try to get less power from strictly my arm and try to get a little bit more leg and like swinging motion movement. So I'm not putting everything on like the arm popping and the wrist at the end. While that's important, if it's all coming from that, you're gonna put a lot of error possibility into a little bit of wrist angle being off. Or if I'm able to get more power just from a swing, it's gonna be able to keep everything on track and reduce the amount of error possible from each little moving part. So now instead of coming straight down to my waist and forward, I'm kind of stepping out with my left foot, coming down like this, and then extending forward. The second thing that I'm doing is I was putting really low, so I would release and kind of just putt straight at the basket. And with this new form, it's kind of easy to like release like right here and rise up at the basket. Problem with that is it reduces the sort of target area that you're aiming at when you're aiming at the basket. So if you were to like crouch down and look at the basket from down here, you're kind of like coming at it from under the cage. And that makes it kind of hard to get up there. It reduces the surface area that you have to hit, where if you look at it straight on, that's like the biggest surface area you could hit. It's not a huge difference, but it's a significant enough one that you want to maximize how much area you have to hit when you're throwing your putt. So rather than coming from down here up at the basket and have the chance of, one, catching wind when you're coming up and popping up too much, but also hitting the cage because you're putting too low, I've made an effort to come forward and extend and then release at this point. So now the disc is going at the basket at its level, maybe going up a little bit, but for the most part going straight at it and then falling down into the basket. And it kind of increases the surface area that you're throwing at and has a higher chance of going in. So as you can see, I know I'm like super close to the basket right now, but this is the old form. You know, a lot of power all from the arm, where the newer form, obviously I'm bounced out, but that's okay. Very fluid, all coming from different parts of the body, and like a lot fewer sources of error, right? This is all just little movements of the arm. So just a little bit of a misrelease to the left a little bit like that. That's all from just the arm being off a little bit, where I can put my legs and everything into it, and it's all super smooth and not super rigid. So this nice smooth release, even though it's off by a little bit there to the left, everything's so smooth and like a pendulum that it's really easy to keep it flat than like using your elbow and rigid and keeping it like this. So yeah, that's my little putting change. Not a whole lot. I'm practicing that a bunch. Another thing that I'm doing right now is every time I come into my garage, I'm throwing 10 putts from about 20 feet. So just open the garage up and walk out there a little bit so I have some more space. And if I don't make one of those 10 or multiple of those 10, I go grab them off the ground, throw again until I make all of them in. That gets me making sure I can make all of those putts and get a lot of reps in, and it also kind of gives you that cold start that you need. Sometimes throughout a round, you're tapping in 10 footers, 5 footers the whole round, and then out of nowhere, you gotta make a 20 footer, or you know, you're just not quite warmed up at the beginning of the round, and you gotta make that first putt. That's kind of the same thing. I'm going off to work, hey, gotta make a 10 footer right now. And sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it does. And the more I do it, the more comfortable I'm gonna get just from the start making a putt or having to make multiple putts. It kind of gets me better at jump starting that accuracy, which is something I struggled with quite a bit. So yeah, hope that was helpful. I'll see you next time.